I'd like to welcome everybody, but our special guest today is Dr. Heather Brobbey, who's a psychologist, and we'll be talking about dyslexia and anxiety, particularly the times we're in at the moment. Anxiety is a big thing, and I can 100% share with everyone who's watching this live today that I'm personally going through anxiety myself. So if I do sort of forget a few things or get a bit panicky, do pardon me, because that's normal. And I think it's just so amazing to have Dr. Brobbey, who is a psychologist and can tell us how we can manage with anxiety and so forth. And now I'd like to welcome Dr. Brobbey. Dr. Heather Brobbey, thank you so much for joining us today on A2i Dyslexia, first ever live show. We are so grateful to have you here today. And the topic is about dyslexia and anxiety. First of all, I'd like you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why it's really important for us to deal with anxiety or maybe ask questions when we're going through these, something like anxiety, for example.
Thank you for having me as well. I'm so grateful. So my name is Dr. Heather Brobbey. I'm a psychologist. I'm a founder of Free Your Mind Psychological Services Limited. So I work with people from young children up to elderly, and through that I do counselling. I also do group counselling, family counselling, and that's mixed with Christian principles as well. So it's faith-based as well as CBT-based as well. And I host events to do with counselling, psychological stuff. So it's depression, anxiety, fear, post-traumatic disorder, an online presenter, an author, a mother, child of God. Yeah, but most of all, I'm just Heather, and I'm just happy to help where I can. It's just so important, especially where we are now, because anxiety, it's a very huge thing. So we know that we are in we are in a pandemic that was never forecasted. Nobody ever really saw this coming. So obviously it's just happened at once. So I think it's so important for us to really speak about anxiety, because for me, I feel that anxiety is more heightened than the virus itself. And if we don't focus on how anxiety is affecting people, affecting people's mental health, this can cause a breakdown in your immune system. So sometimes we're wondering, like, I'm okay, how did I get sick? Maybe it's because mentally you're not okay. So I think it's just so important that, it's so important. And I'm just so happy to be here to be able to just share some insights on what anxiety is in layman terms.
Wow, because you know what it is, Dr. Brobbey? Like I said, I probably wouldn't even know if I am going through anxiety, or maybe I may know. So what is anxiety? Just in a nutshell, what is anxiety, first of all? What is it? And what are the signs we should be looking out for example?
Okay, so anxiety is the loss of control. Is a state of worry of what might be. So it's not fear, because people mix fear with anxiety. Fear is what's happening now. So your reaction will point to what's happening now. Anxiety is constantly ruminating on the what ifs. People have lost their jobs, people have lost childcare, forced to do homeschooling now. People have lost the change. There's a lot of changes to their routine. And everything. So that's what anxiety is. It's saying, okay, it's worrying about the future events. It's not looking at tomorrow. It's not looking at, next week. It's looking at a few months later. What's going to happen in 3 months' time? What's going to happen in 4 months' time? And whereas fear looks at the now. Okay, this is happening now. So obviously when you go to the shop and you're not seeing toilet rolls, that's fear. Anxiety is looking further down the line now to say, oh my gosh, am I going to have a job? And obviously, when we look at it in terms of dyslexia, we know that dyslexia in itself, which you can see, there's a loads of emotional attachment based on that. So there's studies that shown that from the age of 15 to 44, they people with dyslexia have self-reported that they are distressed, twice more likely to be distressed, depressed, have anxiety disorders, suicidal thoughts, poor mental health, poor social relationships, poor understanding of our own strengths and weaknesses, and difficulty in just focusing on set tasks. So
Right.
imagine now we're in a place where we don't know what's going on. It's going to
Mm.
breed a load of emotional um, insecurity in a lot of people. So that's basically what anxiety is, where it's a state of worry and it's a continual state of worry. So it's not like one day I'm okay, but and one day I'm not. But if I just say the difference is because all of us have anxiety, so I don't want people
Mm.
to think, oh my gosh, I'm not allowed to be anxious. It's
Yes.
something in us that we all have. So
Yeah.
it's like a fight and flight response.
Hmm.
So going further into that, it's like saying that, so there's a threat
Hmm.
in the midst of me and something is happening. So your body will react because it's like, okay, something's going to happen. So your body reacts in three ways. And it's fight, it's flight, it's fright, and also you can freeze. So when you fight, you become aggressive, you become argumentative, you may even daydream. Whereas when you're on a flight defense mechanism, but we also call it a protective mechanism, you
Hmm.
may be distractive, you may avoid a lot of things as well. When you're on the fright, you're
Hmm.
unable to start an activity. So I know, like, I've heard a lot of dyslexics say, what, they can start a task, but sometimes it's hard to finish, or they
You
can
never
only work
finish.
on one at a time. And even that is very slow processing of things that's taking place. So now we're in something that we've been forced to be like, okay, we need to change our whole lifestyle now. Imagine for
Yes.
us that we don't have dyslexia, as
Mm.
opposed to someone that now is having to deal with the change in the um, global economy, as well as changing themselves, having
Yeah.
to now maneuver everything all over again. So, and then some, and as well, people also freeze. So they shut down physically and they also shut down mentally. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
important to understand that. Yeah. So we shouldn't think that because we're anxious, there's something wrong. We all have anxiety. It shows up physically, emotionally, behavioral. So it also in our, it can show up as an illness.
Hmm.
But we have to remember that it comes in different ways. We either avoid people, things, situations, even go to the shop, stuff like that. It can come in arousal where we become dizzy, have headaches, migraine, and apprehensive, worrying about everything. And that's the main thing with anxiety, is constantly ruminating. But other things that we can look at as well is sleep disturbance, um,
Right.
difficulties having concentration. So even though
Hmm.
things are happening in the present, it's like you're constantly thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in 3 months' time? So you're never really present. Starting to make unhealthy choices, which can be something as simple as personal hygiene, not wanting to bath anymore. Some people go to drinking, maybe smoking a bit more, because
Right.
now they have that loss of
Yeah.
control, or even no control.
Mm.
Then physical symptoms will show up in shortness of breath, racing thoughts, um, of continual perceived threat. So even if
Mm.
there's no
Mm.
threat,
Yeah.
your heart is constantly racing, your thoughts are constantly racing. Some people have panic attacks, or just feel like they're having a heart attack, but it's not.
Yeah, because let me just stop you there 1 minute, please, Dr. Brobe, because
Mhm.
I seriously and strongly think when, for the minute I heard the word pandemic COVID-19,
Yeah.
I just literally, I can't even begin to explain what it was like
Mm.
to hear something like that. My first reaction is, oh my goodness, and I'm sure so
Mhm.
many people would agree with me.
Mhm.
And then the worst part for me as a dyslexic was, right, everything I kept hearing was on the news, go online and find out. And
Yeah.
then, if I went online and I was trying to navigate and I couldn't find things, no
Mm.
matter what it might be that I was looking for at the time, I
Mhm.
was thinking, oh my goodness, I can't go online because sometimes I forget my password, I forget
Yeah.
where I'm supposed to look.
Yeah.
With my dyslexia, I get quite distracted. So I'm online looking for certain thing. I see
Mhm.
something else and I just go off and do that. So the
Yeah.
whole thing was really, really overwhelming for me. And I remember, and
Mhm.
I'm going to be honest and say this live on TV. I remember one day I was sitting there and actually broke down. And I was like, oh my God,
Mhm.
I can't cope because I've
Okay.
been somebody that deals with face to face on a lot of things I do, rather than, being sort of locked down in the house and trying to do things online. Even online shopping may be an issue because I'm not
Mm.
going to go. your card details. It's really, really overwhelming.
Yeah.
I then came to realize, hang on a minute, what am I going through? So I started sort of getting a bit of headaches, a bit of pain around my body. And I was thinking, is this anxiety? Because I was
Yeah.
really anxious and I was nervous, I was scared, I was panicky, a bit sort of not short tempered, but I just didn't have the answers. You know,
Mm.
even if I couldn't navigate around something, I'd get quite frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having dyslexia on its own, when there isn't issues to do with pandemic and
Yeah.
all sorts of things going on, that on its own is a big battle. And I know many dyslexics watching this will say, "Do you know what, Liz? I agree with you." Now, having all this pandemic we're going through, and then trying to navigate everything I'm doing online, I can't begin to tell you how it was really affecting me. And then we kept getting clients that were ringing, saying, "Look, I need help to fill forms online. I need help to do this online." And I'm like, this is going to be like, I'm dyslexic myself, and I'm really struggling to navigate. And I've got, honestly, anxiety is the word I can use at the time.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult for me to even support our clients. And then a penny dropped, and I thought, you know what? Why don't you start doing these live shows so other people who are going through the same thing can share their sort of experience with you? So I think we all do go through it from time to time, like you
Yeah.
said. And I think I've suffered it every time it comes in terms of being able to engage with written stuff, reading things, that would just set in. A lot of the times I tend to just think, I can't be bothered with this and walk away from it. But I can't keep walking away from things. I have to see them through to the end. Like
Yeah.
you said, part of me is procrastination as well,
Yeah.
because I won't even start it because I know it's not going to get finished. And if it does get finished, it's all mumbo jumbo sometimes. And that itself creates anxiety. So I had to go online and understand what it meant, first of all. And then I know that people may go to their doctors and they get prescription for anxiety issues. And the reason why I was sort of doing dyslexia and anxiety today, I just wanted people watching that it is real. And if you do feel anxious or anxiety or anything that you think that God says is not norm, you would normally behave like that. It might be best to seek help. And hence why you're on the show to explain a bit more to us today. Yeah. So I just thought, I'll share a little bit of my story before we go ahead, and then I'll ask you a few more questions. So even though I've explained what it was like for me, what are some of the telltale signs if someone was going through anxiety right now? And what are some of the telltale signs? I know you've covered some, but if I say 5 main things that you might have come across during your line of work.
Okay, so this is more not really for dyslexics, but more for
in general,
just overall. So anxiety always comes in 3 ways. So it comes in avoidance, it comes in arousal, and it comes in apprehension. So it always comes, you're either avoiding something. It can even be yourself, avoiding people, avoiding things, avoiding situations. And it also can be, and then it comes up in arousal, which is dizziness, migraines, heart racing. So to put it in layman's terms, look at your emotions and look at your physical. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding if I am avoiding? Am I having outbursts? Am I constantly crying? Because sometimes people are not angry, but they're crying. That intolerance of uncertainty comes out in tearfulness. So they're constantly crying, constantly questioning themselves, having outbursts, resisting change. Because one thing which is very important, especially those with dyslexic, is that they want to continue what was. And when you start to realize that, this is something new, we don't know where it is for now, but let me focus on the present. The moment you start looking further down the line, or sometimes even further before how things used to be, then you start to continue working in something that is no more at the moment. We don't know where we're going. So I think the main thing is to look at the present, understand that, if I'm getting a bit tearful and stuff like that, let me stop. As you said, like, you just thought, I'm not going to bother. And one thing you said, procrastination, but another word as well is perfectionism.
Right.
If you constantly in that place where, oh my gosh, this is not right, this is not how it used to look, this is not how it's looking now, I can't even do anything for myself, so how can I help other people? When you're getting in that, you start to get into that perfectionism mode where, I'm not doing it because it's not going to be perfect. And by doing that, you're rewarding the anxiety, you're rewarding that thing in you to say, oh my gosh, okay. And then your body starts to react by what now you're starting to say, what you're feeling, how you're thinking, because your mind is tells your body what to do.
Yes.
So you constantly saying, I can't do it, then you're rewarding and you're reinforcing the anxious thought in you. And by doing that, you're looking for things. Our mind is so clever. It looks for things that we think about. So when you're constantly thinking, I can't do, it's going to start showing you things that you can't do, or you haven't been able to do, or haven't been able to accomplish. And this is where, obviously, when we go further down, we'll talk about the tips and stuff. But start from where you are now. Don't look forward. Just start from where you are now. Don't wish I should have been here or I should have been there. But the main things, how it comes out is, the desire to want to control everything. So when you feel that the loss of control is gone, that's when you're going to start to feel, hypertensive, upset, angry, the outbursts, belly aches, migraines, difficulty managing your emotions, struggling to pay attention and focus, over planning, and then under planning. So you're having the over and the under and the under and the over, having high expectations of something that is not maybe even a reality. Difficulty getting to sleep, feeling agitated, as I said before, and avoiding. So those are the main things to look out for. Look at how you're reacting to things, how you're reacting to yourself, how you're reacting to activities, and the physicals. Are you shouting? Are you shaking? Are you having panic attacks? Are you able to control your breathing? Stuff like that. Are you sweating?
Yeah, I mean, all those things you've just described or explained, to be honest, Dr. Heather, are things that from time to time I go through myself. I am the founder of A2i Dyslexia. I am the CEO of A2i Dyslexia, but trust me, I go through all these things myself. So sometimes I say to my clients, you don't exhibit it. You don't let them know that you can't do it. You try your best to support as much as you can. But there are times when I'm real. And I said, you know what, we're both going to have to learn this together. Because even for me, it's not just dyslexia. I have like 4 different conditions, that specific learning difficulty. So it's dyslexia, and then it's dyspraxia, and then it's dyscalculia, which is the numbers, maths, and adding up and measurement and things, telling the time. And then I've got the Erling syndrome as well. So when I'm reading, it's really difficult to read on white without my colored glasses. So I've got 4 different conditions going on there. So if it's not the dyslexia side of it, then it's all the others that are combined together. But one tip I've always said to myself is, and I think a lot of dyslexic people as well, we will never give up till we succeed. And that's one thing that I think a lot of dyslexic watching now would agree with me. As much as I said some stuff, I can't be bothered, I'm like, I'm going to keep going until I get to the final destination. For that reason, if I must always be honest, I do beat myself halfway in between. Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Then I'll take a step back. I said, because you have a condition, and if you admit that you've got this condition, that's the reason why. But Lizzie, don't let that stop you, because you know what? You can always get someone who can help you to do that.
Yeah, that's the important thing there, help.
Absolutely.
It's so important for us to just reach out. Vulnerability is strength. And when we realize that that is what real strength is, when you are vulnerable with the right people, that I can reach out to a healthy set of friendships. Your circle, you have a circle that is healthy enough to be able to say, okay, I can help you here. I have that skill set, don't worry. Then that, what, when that does come up, even though we have human experiences, we're going to feel sad, we're going to feel anxious, we're going to feel these things, but you can say, what, I need help, and not feel bad about it, not feel like I feel so stupid now, because it's so important. And I know you've gone through it so much, and obviously when we go through a new thing, a pandemic, which we don't know, obviously now it's like rehearsing a new cycle, because you're now going to have to confront it again and say, oh my gosh, I can't. Whereas you mastered it in another place, you're in a new season now where you're having to remaster, gain new skills or a new way of doing things. So
one of the tips I normally say to myself, okay, I'm not going to be able to do everything. I don't think there's anyone out there who is able to do everything in terms of running their organization and so forth. So one thing I'm quite good at, I'll reach for help. And I never used to really ask. Sometimes I try and battle it myself, and I think, you know what, Lizzie, you're not going to get anywhere by just, hammering on the same thing. So who's best at doing this? Who can I pay to support me in what I do? And I will run with my strengths, and strength is something that we're going to be talking about as time go along. We've got an amazing practitioner, a dyslexia practitioner, which when as time go along, she'll come on the show and she'll talk to us about dyslexia and strengths. And of course, having that strengths that I have, I would normally go with that. And the things that I really struggle to do, which won't give me the anxiety, I would normally say, well, look, let me reach out to this person who is brilliant at doing this. Of course, sometimes it's about trust. It's about building that relationship. And it's about knowing that that person will do it to the best of your ability. But, we have been so blessed at A2i Dyslexia in the organization that everyone we work with is very accommodating and understanding of what the condition is. So in the office, when we're not on lockdown and we're in the office, there's so much help around. But when you're sort of in your house and you're locked down and you're like, right, okay, who can I reach to? That can be a bit of a problem, which brings me on to the next sort of question I wanted to ask you. Of course, with lockdowns and quarantine and so forth and everything that's going on at the moment during COVID-19, most dyslexics will be working from home. So what sort of tips or practical sort of ideas would you give to someone who's in their house by themselves with this condition and trying to make things work? What's one or two things that you might want to say to help, even myself, moving forward with lockdown, but not locked out, I think it's called.
Locked out,
Lockdown, but not locked out. Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing I always say is perspective is everything, and the first thing I would say is to be present. Be present. Anxiety will take you all the way down to December. Be present with your now, and have a routine in place. It's so important to have a routine, because if you wake up in the morning and you say, let me go with the flow, I know I have work to do, but let me go with the flow because I'm at home, that can breed a whole load of anxiety, because you don't know what you're going to start engaging with different things and be just going with the flow. So I think the first thing is be present. That's number one. But also set a routine in place, even if you don't even follow the routine, but you know that you have the routine in place. And you set it from morning to evening, have that in place, maybe go through it. If you know that you're getting a bit agitated, irritated, annoyed, or feel like that perfectionism cap is coming back on, just say, okay, let me take a break. And it's okay to have a break. It's okay to have a break, and give yourself that time to take a walk or just have a little break in the house. Switch activities, but make sure that you go back to the activity to ensure that you finished that what you have set out to put in place for that day. But just don't beat yourself about it. Everybody knows that we're in a pandemic. We know that everybody's adjusting and navigating into something new. So everybody is very accommodating to the new things that's taken place and stuff. So I think once the routine is in place, don't beat yourself up about it.
I mean, it's funny how you said, like anxiety is going to be till December. And I'm actually sitting there thinking anxiety might be quite a long time thing, because even after all this pandemic, and I don't even know to call it after, because we don't even know if it's ever going to go. I mean, we've never got rid of flus and other sort of viruses that we've had to encounter with. But I think it will be like something that people will be worried about, and including myself. I'm worried about pandemic and so forth.
Anxiety is something that we have. So anxiety never leaves us.
Exactly.
Like fear never leaves us. Sadness never leaves us. These are all components in us that we all have. So it's not something that will ever leave us. It's always going to be there. We go through human experiences, sadness, grief, anxious thoughts, worry, fear, body image concerns, lack of focus. We all go through mood swings, intrusive thoughts and stuff. But anxiety is not fear. So fear, just to reiterate that. Fear focuses on the now. So fear will react to what they're seeing now or what they've heard now. So that's like hearing something in the news and you start to react to that. Anxiety looks further down the line. So anxiety is not looking at what's going to happen tomorrow. Anxiety is
Mm.
looking at what's going to happen in September, what's going to happen in
Yes.
December, what's going to
What
happen in
if?
2021.
Mm.
So this is why it's so important to stay present. Stay
Mm.
present on the now, because anxiety, if you allow anxiety to guide you and
Mm.
cause you to cause you to act in a certain way, you're always going to be in a fight and flight defense mechanism. You're always going to feel like you're in a threatening your body's always going to feel that it's at threat.
Mhm, mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
always going to respond with aggression. You're always going to respond in like pain. You're going to have some sort of, oh, I've got headache. I don't know why I'm getting headache,
Right.
or I'm feeling a bit tearful. I don't know why I'm feeling tearful. I want to start this activity, but something is just not making me start. And sometimes it's just that. It's because we've allowed anxiety to control us, as opposed to for us to just acknowledge that, you know what, I am anxious, and that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to be anxious, but just don't let it guide and direct you. So by that,
Yeah.
there's
Mm,
different
mm,
techniques that we do teach as we go further on and stuff as well. But it's
mm.
so important that we understand the difference, because people use fear and anxiety as one, but it's not.
Yes.
Fear is just a reaction to now. Anxiety is further down the line. What's going to happen, in 3 months? Am I going to have a job? For a person with dyslexia, they may be like, is
Mm.
anybody going to like me like my old manager, because maybe they've lost their job now?
Exactly.
Am I going to
Exactly.
have to go through a whole interview process?
Yeah.
Because some people have not got a job at home. So it's
Mm,
just that kind of focusing on your mental health at the moment. If
mm,
you're no good to yourself, to other people, if you're no good to yourself.
mhm.
So some
Absolutely.
people may be working from home, but then some people might have to shut down their business, or some people are having to say, let me look for jobs. And even that, it's like reaching out for help. Where do
Mm.
I start from? Everything is online. Everything, you see everybody on
Exactly.
lives now. Like, how am I going to sort out my business so that I can become, you know um social engaged like other people? So all these things. So I think the first thing to always start off is just to
Acknowledge. Yeah.
acknowledge your thoughts, and just
Mm.
don't shame yourself for being anxious.
Yeah.
Don't shame yourself for having a headache. Don't shame yourself for having a human experience.
Mhm.
Don't shame yourself, and just have someone that you can speak to say, you know what, I'm not feeling okay today, and take that time out. So even if you're working from home and you're feeling agitated, you're feeling irritated, you may have kids and you're starting to shout at the kids, or be so like, oh, get out the way, or isolating yourself. Even you
Mm.
may just be quiet and just be not saying a word, or just crying, or one word, just acting not of yourself. Then
Right.
take a
Yeah.
break, and be like, you know what, I'm not okay. Acknowledge those thoughts. What is it that I'm feeling now? Or what
Mm.
was the trigger? Because we have to always look at the triggers. There's always a trigger. It's either that you've watched the news and something is, that image is playing on your mind, and you're starting to think
Mhm.
about death, or you're starting to think about, all these kind of things. So look at the triggers. What am I feeling? Do I feel like I'm trapped in the house? Do I
Mm.
feel like I'm stressed? Do I feel lonely? Am I worried about other people that I've just caused that to come into my home? Am I bored? Am I not well? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Am I having the fear of being contaminated by this virus? Is
Mhm.
that what's causing me not want to work the way that I would do effectively?
Yeah.
Am I feeling angry at others? Am I feeling angry at the government? Am I feeling angry at at people? Some people are even angry at the person that even started this whole thing, and we don't know who it is.
Yes. We don't know.
But the anger
Yeah.
is real. There is anger issues there, at the countries and all these kind of things, at the government. Why didn't they foresee this? Are you feeling unsafe? Are you thinking about the lack of food supplies? I know that
Yes.
when everything started, there was no toilet paper. Everybody was wondering, oh my gosh, if it's locked down, am I going to have enough food in my cupboard? Who am I going to turn to? And all these kind of things. And we have to always look at the triggers. What's triggering me to
Mm.
feel these emotions? And when
Right.
and that takes you to really be intentional. Because some people, and all of us, should I say, we can easily go, although the world has stopped, we can still be busy. We can still be trying
Absolutely.
to wrap ourselves doing things just so we can't think. But it's good to just sit down and say, you know what, let me think about what's happening. Let me think about what I'm going through. Let me think about why I shouted at this person, or maybe why I even avoided my client today. It
Mhm.
may be that feeling of being that insecurity within you, that
Right.
instability. So it's so important that we really just name what we're feeling, name those emotions. For
Yes,
Christians that are dyslexic, it's not a sin to be
absolutely. And it's
anxious.
not a curse either
It's not a curse. It's not
to
it's
have
not
dyslexia. Yeah.
yeah, it's none of that. So if you feel anxious, name it. I'm
Yeah,
feeling anxious, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling like useless. Name it and then address it.
that's right.
Once you're able to name it, then you can address it, because then you'll look back, because that name will cause you to look back at the trigger. What was the trigger? What
Right.
was it that I heard? Because we have to look at our eye gates. What is it that I saw? What was it that I heard or overheard? What was it that I spoke that has now because remember, anxiety is ruminating over negative things that may never happen.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Brobbey, what sort of advice would you give to particularly BAME groups regarding
Mhm.
anxiety? And the reason why I thought I'd drop that one in there is because growing up, I'm from a Ghana, sorry, my parents are from Ghana. Let me get that right. It's my dyslexic up in there, twisting it all up. Yeah, parents are from Ghana, and obviously, they sort of, when I was growing up, if I wasn't able to do something at the time, I didn't know I had dyslexia from the age very young, from primary school and that. I didn't know I have this condition. So if I wasn't able to do something, what my parents would say to me at the time would be, look, try harder, get on with it. Come on, everyone
Yeah,
else is doing it. Yeah?
yeah.
And I think this is quite common in our community.
Mm.
A lot of people in our community may not even sort of know what anxiety is.
Mm.
Some may not. And sometimes, as a parent, when your child is coming to you and sharing something with you that they're going through, whether they have dyslexia or not, or whatever specific learning difficulty they may have, some parents will be, well, actually, what's wrong with you?
Mhm.
Joe Block's down the road got A in English and science, and you're
Mm.
telling me you can't do it. Meanwhile, this child may be going through anxiety,
Mm.
and that's not something we tend to. I won't generalize, but I'll just say
Yeah.
some parents, it's not something we kind of look into to find out, one,
Mhm.
maybe why they're going through it, the child, and two, what kind of help or support they can give that child, or even as an adult, if you're with your friends and you may need some kind of help because you're going through anxiety. A
Mm.
lot of people can say, "Oh, look, it's nothing to worry about. Come on, just try harder and don't worry
Yeah.
about it." And then they'll use their example. I went through
Mhm.
that, and come on, you can do this. But remember, we're not
Mhm.
all the same. So
That's right.
for the BAME group, what kind of advice would you give in terms of anxiety? What should they be looking out for? And what shouldn't they be saying to their children, for example, if they're
Yeah.
going through anxiety?
Yeah. Anxiety at this time.
Yeah, this time, yeah.
The main thing that I would say is just be a compassionate listener.
Right.
Be a compassionate listener. Don't try to undermine anybody's experiences. Don't try to make it seem as though what they're experiencing is not a reality, because everybody's reality is different. So if your child is expressing some type of anxiety, for children it's a bit different because they won't say they're anxious.
Yeah.
They may just withdraw. They may even be very sick, so they may be vomiting, not eating, not talking really, not engaging as they used to. But then we also have high functioning people that are, they act like they're okay, but they're not. But it's good to look at the different patterns in your children. Um, Now that we're all at home, it's good to have that quality time. Find out the strengths and the weaknesses of your child, and see, and when you start to see them disengaging from those activities, then ask yourself what's going on, and then
Right.
go there and just sit there and listen. Be a compassionate listener. We don't know, I don't know what you go through, Elizabeth, and and if I go through anxiety one day, you know or for a situation that I face, even the symptoms that we will engage in, it may be
Yeah.
different. So it may sound the same, but it
Yeah.
can never really be the same, because how I experience it is going to be different. So it's so
Exactly.
important, because I think as parents as well, we always want to jump in and because we're a caregiver, we want to be like, no, do this, do that, do this, do that. Or we because some parents still have unresolved issues in them,
Right.
they start to cuss.
If you could use that word.
Yeah, if you can use that word, they start to insult you, start to, undermine you, make you feel like you're silly, or as you said, compare you to someone else. So as a parent, if you're listening, or just an adult, be a compassionate listener. Don't try to push in and force yourself into someone's reality. Listen, let them express themselves, because the more that you listen is the more that they will trust you enough to be able to share even more. So sometimes it'll start off so small. It might just start with, I've got a bellyache. And, assess that. Why are you feeling pain? What did you eat? When you know that you've cancelled all those things off, then you realize, okay, this is something that's either emotional, and mentally. It may be fear, it may be anxiety, it may be just that sense of being overwhelmed. It may be like, they can't see their friends anymore, and having to adjust to a new kind of lifestyle at home and stuff like that. Some people have grown so much with their caregivers in school, so they've got like one-on-one teachers and stuff like that, and they don't have that. So it's good to just be a compassionate listener, which means that don't ask too many questions. Let them talk. Let them feel that you understand them. Don't butt in. Don't try to add your own stories on top if it doesn't help. And just remember that it's not your job to fix anything. It's just your job to be there. Be there.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's all I can say. And I think that the main thing as well to really, really understand is that all of us are grieving. So when we think about grief, we think about it in terms of like a loss of loved ones and stuff like that. But every single one of us are grieving somehow. So imagine someone that's even going through anxiety right now.
Exactly.
Either anxiety at a high level, or someone that has anxiety disorder, which is even worse. So it's like we are all grieving. Either people are grieving a loss of a job, a loss of finances, a loss of their ambitions, their purpose, things that were scheduled maybe in a month's time. Those kind of things that they're having to lose, the events that they were meant to go to, maybe the meetings that they were looking forward to, the clients they were looking forward to. These are all stages of grief that everybody is starting to feel, because there's a change. So we think of it as a grief as like a physical death, but everybody is mourning something. Where some people are having to shut down their business. Some people may children may not go to school till September. We don't know. Maybe January next year. We don't know. So there's a lot of grief going on with kids as well as with adults. And so it's so important that we just say, what, it's not my job to fix how people feel, but it's my job to be there. It's my job to listen. Where I can help, I can help. And if you know that it's beyond you, don't be afraid to go for counselling. It's so important. Don't be the one that causes someone to suppress how they feel, especially in the BME community, where we feel like, it's okay, everybody's going through it. And that's where it's so important, because everybody's going through it, so we kind of push it aside, like, okay, I'm not allowed to feel this way because everybody's feeling it. I'm not allowed to think that way because someone else may be going through worse. There'll be some parents that will say, you know what, we're okay because at least we've got food. Other people don't have food. It's okay because at least we've got materials. Your school has given us materials, school materials to work with. Some people don't have it, so it kind of causes you to suppress. And then you're avoiding your own emotions. And this is where it causes all these physical pain, headaches and migraines, and you start to be emotional or have angry outbursts. And
So what are some of the sort of physical, how would anxiety exhibit itself in a physical way, as in your body? Would you get headaches? And then would you get like a stiff neck? And then would you get, I don't know, do you become forgetful? I mean, I know that at some point I used to kind of get so worried. It was anxiety, by the way, and I'd probably be shaking. I mean, I've done a lot of research on it, and I know, look, you did go through that, and that was anxiety. And I think having all the different conditions I've got as well, it doesn't really help it. But in terms of where we are now, with lockdowns and quarantine and COVID-19 and all the words that I can associate with what we're going through now, at some point it was really worrying, and I did start getting headaches, and I did sort of start getting a few sort of aches here and there. what are some of the things we should be looking out for if for any dyslexic who's listening right now, watching this right now, and they think they might have anxiety? What are some of the things? Yeah.
Is that the physical you're
Yeah, physical.
about?
Yeah, because I know you've spoken about headaches, which I think I had headache before we came on live. Yes, just worried about, hoping everything goes okay. But anyway, yeah. So
yeah, so the physical always shows up in our bodies. So that's the sweating, that's the shaking,
okay.
that's the headaches, that's the stomach pains, that's the needing to constantly go to toilet, maybe even having diarrhea. And that's the low confidence, the frustration, the confusion. So that can be linked to forgetfulness, anger, avoidance, as we said before, the aggression, the resistance, the tearfulness, and even the clinginess. If you see your children being very clingy as well, that's something to even look at as well, because it could be a sense of fear as well as anxiety as well. Outbursts, even boredom.
Yes.
So those are the kind of bodily figures, manifestations that it shows up in.
And I think even if it's not just children, adults as well, because it could be you and your partner, or you and your husband, or in a house. And I think it's really important that adults as well recognize that. And I think it's okay as well to talk if it's a partner that you're living with, or anyone, say, look, actually, I am going through some kind of anxiety, and I think I need help. It's like you said, ask, because if you don't ask, you're not going to get it. When I said I need help, you're not relying on them to prescribe you medication or anything, but just a shoulder to lean on, or to cry on, or to say everything's going to be all right. I think children go through that, and it's difficult for children to actually say what they're going through for anxiety.
So that's why it's important to look at the clinginess, because adults and the children, they exhibit it basically the same way, but children don't speak it, whereas adults maybe say, they will probably be very loud about it and very vocal about it. But the clinginess is very one to really think about, especially if you have a child that is full of children, but there's only one that's just being so clingy to you. And then that can also show up in adults as well, where they may be clingy, not even clingy physically, they might be on their own, but they may be one that's constantly calling you, constantly messaging you, constantly emailing you. Then there's that type of clinginess that's taking place, just for that comfort. It's just that reassurance. So even that person that is there on the other end, especially, first of all, take care of yourself. If you know that you can't, if you're not mentally stable, don't take on someone else's weight, because everybody's going through it differently. So don't take on someone else's weight if you know that you can't, because you will definitely show it out to them in a different way, and that will add on to what they're going through. So just to add that, don't take on someone else's weight if you know that you're also going through. But if you know that you're the person that you are able to be the strength of someone else, where they can email you and you can be there, just reassure them from time to time and stuff like that. Validate their emotions. Don't push it to one side. Validate it. If the person keeps saying to you, I keep going to the toilet, then it's a kind of a sign of anxiety. But there has to be different symptoms showing up in one go. So it can't just be because I've got diarrhea.
I
it has to be in different ways as well.
Yeah. So it's really important that we go for help, really. I mean, I know today's show is dyslexia and anxiety, and to be honest with you, in the past, when I felt like that, I thought, well, actually, I'm going to go for help. I don't understand why I'm feeling this way, so I'm going to go. So I did, and it's really helped me, because I think counselling is really good. You go and you seek that help, and once you get that help you need, you can then just move forward. But I also really agree with you in the point that you said, maybe if there's no point trying to support somebody if you're also going through that at the same time. It might be better to actually, for now, I can't cope right now, and put that on hold for now, and then seek your help and then come back and do it, because otherwise sometimes it just becomes too overwhelming. And I know I'm talking from a place of being dyslexic and trying to support other dyslexics as well, where I've done it to the best of my ability, but I know my cutoff line, where it gets to a point of, actually, I can't really do anymore, but I can signpost you to someone who can.
That's right.
Absolutely. Wow. So for those that have just joined us right now, we're talking about dyslexia and anxiety. I just thought I'd come back and share what it is. And we've got Dr. Brobbey, who's a psychologist, who's given us tips and how to manage anxiety. And if anybody's going through anxiety right now, and you've got dyslexia, or your children are going through it, do drop us a comment. Do drop us, say something to us. And of course, we will direct your questions to Dr. Brobbey, and her details and everything will come on the program. Maybe not as soon as we're finished, because this is sort of, it's our first day, but you will definitely get details about where to go for help and support as well. So this live program will be coming on every Mondays from 7 p.m, depending what country you're watching from, but UK time, 7 p.m. And we'll be covering all things dyslexia.